Truman Show. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is Decoding Dystopia, Literature as Prophecy, where we pull back the veil on the hidden systems that shape our reality, influence our consciousness, and govern our very sense of freedom. Today, we turn to The Truman Show, a film that remains one of the most prescient cultural artifacts about surveillance, control, and constructed realities. Released in 1998, well before social media and reality TV exploded globally, it foresaw a world where our lives are no longer private or spontaneous, but curated, scripted, and broadcast to an audience, where entertainment and control merge seamlessly. Truman Burbank's world is a fabricated dome, a sprawling set where every relationship, every moment, and every environment is engineered to keep him confined in ignorance. His entire life is a performance, watched by millions, yet he remains unaware that his reality is an elaborate illusion. This cinematic parable doesn't just tell a story. It exposes the architecture of control behind contemporary society's surveillance culture, the manipulation of consent, and the commodification of human experience. In this video, we will decode the layers beneath Truman's dome, the mechanisms of manufactured reality, the psychological traps of false freedom, and the spiritual cost of living in a world that is never truly your own. We will trace the parallels to today's pervasive surveillance, the algorithmic curation of our lives, and the societal scripts that bind us. Prepare to question what is real, who controls the narrative, and what it means to break free from the greatest show on earth, the one you might be living in. We will decode 22 concepts for The Truman Show: MOIV, the constructed dome, reality as artificial architecture, surveillance as entertainment and control, Truman's scripted life, the illusion of free will, the role of media in manufactured consent, false relationships as social control mechanisms, algorithmic manipulation of behavior and environment, the role of fear and comfort in containment, the breaking point, awareness as rebellion, spatial confinement and psychological boundaries, symbolism of the sea and the exit path, the creator as God figure and puppet master, Truman's namesake, true man, and the search for authenticity, product placement and commercialization of life, the role of ritual and repetition in conditioning, the manufactured crisis as control reset public spectacle versus private reality, identity fragmentation under constant observation, the role of technology in reality, simulation, social isolation as control, the power of choice and the myth of escape, the final exit as spiritual awakening metaphor, the legacy of The Truman Show, reality TV and beyond. Let's begin. 1. The constructed dome, reality as artificial architecture and the kingdom of control. At the heart of The Truman Show is the massive dome enclosing Truman's entire life, an artificial world designed to simulate reality while containing and controlling its subject. This dome is more than a set. It is a physical and symbolic kingdom, a constructed realm where every aspect of existence is engineered to maintain illusion and obedience. The pun embedded in dome and kingdom reminds us this is a free territory ruled by unseen powers who dictate every rule, every boundary, every interaction. This concept echoes ancient cosmologies, where the firmament, a solid dome-like structure, was believed to separate the earthly realm from the heavens. The firmament defined the limits of the known world, the boundary of human experience, and the containment of celestial forces. In The Truman Show, this dome performs the same function. It is a barrier between Truman and truth, or freedom, the limit of his perceived universe. It is a modern-day spiritual firmament, enclosing and restricting, pretending to be sky and space, but ultimately a cage. The dome's artificial weather, controlled lighting, and fabricated seasons reinforce the illusion of natural order while reminding us that every natural phenomenon Truman experiences is curated. His environment is no more spontaneous than his relationships or memories. This level of control reflects the idea of a totalizing kingdom, a world designed to suppress dissent and manage the population through environment and narrative. By naming it a dome, the film taps into deep archetypes of enclosure and hierarchy. The dome is the frieze crown, the celestial sphere, the dome of heaven itself. But here, the crown is hollow. What should be a place of liberation becomes a prison. Truman's kingdom is a theater of shadows where power masquerades as providence. The Watchers are kings of this dome, orchestrating every move beneath their vaulted control. This symbolism extends into modern contexts as well. The dome parallels digital architectures, social media platforms, algorithmic feeds, and virtual realities that enclose our perceptions in self-reinforcing bubbles. These contemporary domes shape what we see, think, and feel, reinforcing the idea that our realms of experience are often designed, limited, and surveilled rather than naturally free. Ultimately, The Truman Show's dome challenges us to recognize the constructed nature of our own kingdoms, whether physical, social, or digital, and the invisible boundaries that shape our reality. To awaken like Truman requires breaking through the firmament, stepping beyond the scripted sky, and reclaiming true freedom beyond the dome's shadow. 2. Surveillance as entertainment and control. The Watchers wield power not just by observing, but by shaping reality. In The Truman Show, surveillance is not a neutral act. It is the mechanism of power itself. Millions watch Truman's life unfold, turning his genuine existence into consumable spectacle. This constant observation enforces conformity. Truman's every gesture is monitored, edited, and directed to maintain the show's illusion. Surveillance thus becomes an active form of control, where the watched are shaped by the watcher's gaze, and autonomy is replaced by performative obedience. This dynamic parallels modern society's evolution, where surveillance technologies, CCTV, social media tracking, data mining, do more than record. They predict, influence, and regulate behavior. The blurring of private and public transforms individuals into transparent nodes within a data network, where performance replaces authenticity. The entertainment industry's commodification of real lives mirrors this process, normalizing surveillance and conditioning acceptance. Crucially, The Truman Show reveals that surveillance as entertainment seduces and pacifies. The audience's voyeurism makes control pleasurable, distracting both watchers, and watched from the implications of such intrusion. It exposes a culture complicit in its own captivity, where freedom is sacrificed for spectacle, and the camera's gaze becomes the cage. 3. Truman's scripted life, the illusion of free will choice. Within a scripted narrative is freedom only in appearance. Truman's life is meticulously scripted. His friends, family, job, and even accidents are engineered to guide him along a predetermined path. His perception of free will is a fabrication. Every decision is anticipated and controlled by the show's creators. This dramatizes a fundamental control strategy: to sustain obedience by simulating choice, offering freedom only within safe, scripted boundaries. This illusion parallels how social systems and digital algorithms today present curated options that steer behavior without genuine autonomy. Consumerism, social norms, political narratives, and media all function to narrow the spectrum of acceptable choices, creating a controlled environment where real rebellion is suppressed by the appearance of participation. Philosophically, Truman's journey asks profound questions. How much of our own lives are scripted by unseen forces, cultural conditioning, economic pressures, technological algorithms? The film warns that true freedom demands recognizing and stepping beyond these narratives, refusing the limited freedoms granted within the system's script. 4. The role of media in manufactured consent media shapes reality and orchestrates consent through control of narrative. In The Truman Show, the entire town and its inhabitants are actors, performing under the direction of a media corporation that shapes Truman's every experience for public consumption. This manufactured reality extends beyond observation. It actively scripts belief and consent, guiding Truman's emotions, relationships, and worldview. The show's producers control the narrative, ensuring Truman remains unaware and compliant, embodying the concept of manufactured consent, where power structures shape public will through controlled information. This mirrors contemporary media's role in society, where narratives are curated and disseminated to influence public opinion, behavior, and social norms. The blurring line between entertainment, news, and propaganda creates an environment where consent is not freely given, but engineered. Audiences consume stories that align with systemic interests, reinforcing power through psychological and emotional manipulation. By dramatizing Truman's life as a media product, the film critiques how media systems can strip individuals of agency by controlling the story they live. It exposes the dangerous power of narrative control, where reality itself becomes a broadcast shaped to manufacture consent and suppress dissent. 5. False relationships as social control mechanisms. Engineered connections replace authentic human bonds to sustain control. Every relationship Truman has, from his wife to his best friend, is fabricated by the show's producers, designed to keep him tethered to the dome's reality. These false relationships serve as social control mechanisms, fostering emotional dependence that discourages questioning or escape. The intimacy Truman believes in is a carefully constructed illusion, demonstrating how systems manufacture social ties to enforce conformity and limit autonomy. This dynamic parallels real-world experiences where social networks, family expectations, and cultural norms can function as invisible control systems. When relationships are dictated by external pressures or scripted roles, genuine connection and freedom are sacrificed. The Truman Show highlights how emotional bonds are weaponized to maintain systemic stability. The film challenges viewers to consider the authenticity of their own social worlds. It asks, which relationships are truly chosen, and which are conditioned to keep us compliant? The emotional fabric that binds us may also be the net that confines us. 6. Algorithmic manipulation of behavior and environment. Invisible algorithms predict, guide, and limit human action within the dome. Truman's world is not only physically constructed but dynamically managed. The producers respond to his behavior in real time, adjusting events, conversations, and environments to keep him on the scripted path. This is an early cinematic illustration of algorithmic governance, where human behavior is predicted, influenced, and controlled through data-driven feedback loops. This anticipates today's reality, where digital platforms employ algorithms to curate content, influence decisions, and manipulate emotions, often without awareness. The control is subtle but pervasive. Environments, recommendations, and social interactions are tailored to direct behavior within desired parameters, echoing Truman's experience of a world designed to predict and preempt rebellion. The Truman Show thus exposes the foundational logic of algorithmic manipulation, control through anticipatory adaptation. It warns that when environments are designed to corral behavior, free will becomes increasingly constrained, and autonomy is sacrificed to system efficiency. 7. The role of fear and comfort in containment. Fear and comfort function as twin levers maintaining the illusion of safety. Within Truman's dome, fear is subtly deployed to enforce boundaries. His fear of the sea, the fabricated dangers beyond the dome, and the familiar routines keep him confined. Simultaneously, comfort is offered through predictable relationships, a stable job, and a safe neighborhood, which sedate curiosity and quell dissent. This duality of fear and comfort creates a psychological prison disguised as a secure kingdom. This reflects a universal control strategy. Systems maintain obedience by oscillating between threat and reward. Fear creates boundaries and consequences, while comfort offers distraction and a sense of belonging. Together, they diminish the desire to question or escape, fostering compliance through emotional manipulation rather than overt force. The film encourages us to examine our own lives, what fears keep us tethered, and what comforts sedate us. Recognizing these dynamics is vital to breaking free from invisible cages where safety is sold as freedom and fear is disguised as protection. 8. The breaking point. Awareness as rebellion. The moment Truman awakens disrupts the entire control matrix. Truman's growing suspicion and eventual awareness represent the critical fracture in the system's control. His small deviations, questioning inconsistencies, testing boundaries, accumulate into full rebellion. This awakening shatters the illusion and threatens the entire constructed reality, illustrating the power of conscious awareness as the ultimate act of defiance. This process mirrors real-world awakenings, where individuals begin to question dominant narratives, detect manipulation, and seek truth beyond constructed realities. The system anticipates resistance, but attempts to contain and neutralize it, often through distraction or reprogramming, reflecting the constant tension between control and freedom. Truman's journey shows that awakening is not just an internal process, but a disruptive force with systemic implications. It challenges viewers to recognize their own breaking points, the moments when awareness demands action and defies containment. 9. Spatial confinement and psychological boundaries. Physical walls create mental limits that restrict perception and choice. The dome's physical boundary is a literal wall around Truman's world, but more importantly, it symbolizes the psychological boundaries imposed by control systems. These invisible walls define what Truman believes possible, shaping his worldview and limiting imagination. His perception of the world is boxed in. He cannot conceive of life beyond the dome until he physically breaches it. Such spatial confinement parallels societal norms, cultural conditioning, and digital echo chambers that constrain thought and behavior. When environment and perception are controlled, true exploration and freedom become impossible. The dome is a metaphor for any structure, physical, mental, or social, that contains and scripts human experience. Recognizing these boundaries is essential for liberation. Like Truman, breaking free requires not only crossing physical thresholds, but expanding mental horizons beyond imposed limits. 10. Symbolism of the sea and the exit path. The sea as the boundary between the manufactured world and true freedom. The sea in The Truman Show serves as both a literal and symbolic barrier. Truman's deep-seated fear of the water is cultivated by the producers to keep him within the confines of the dome. It represents not just a physical boundary, but a psychological barrier, the perceived limit of Truman's freedom and overstanding of his world. The sea's vast, open expanse contrasts with the small, controlled environment Truman knows, making it an ultimate metaphor for both freedom and fear. The sea is also the exit path, the threshold Truman must cross to escape the constructed reality. It represents a boundary of consciousness, the point where Truman must transcend his conditioning, confronting his deepest fears in order to access the truth. His journey to the edge of the water symbolizes a larger philosophical truth. Freedom is found by confronting what we fear most and breaking through the mental and spiritual walls that confine us. In a broader societal context, the sea reflects the unknown, the vast, uncharted potential of human freedom and awareness that exists outside the established systems. It asks us, what are the seas in our lives? Those fears, boundaries, or taboos that keep us locked within the limits of the system. True freedom often begins when we are willing to face the unknown and venture into spaces that challenge our programming. 11. The creator, as God, figure and puppet master. The godlike figure behind Truman's world, orchestrating every detail. Christof, the creator of Truman's reality, operates as the God figure of the constructed world, controlling every aspect of Truman's life, from his environment to his relationships. His absolute power over Truman's world represents the archetype of an all-knowing, all-controlling deity who defines reality for its subjects. However, Christof's role isn't just as creator, he is also the puppet master, pulling the strings behind every scene and ensuring Truman's compliance to the script he's written. In religious terms, Christof is both a benevolent creator and a tyrant, framing Truman's life as a gift of love while maintaining complete control over every aspect of his existence. The illusion of care and protection is layered on top of a more sinister truth. Truman's life is a spectacle for the amusement of others, and Truman is both the object of affection and the object of exploitation. This duality reflects the tension in many systems of power: control masked as kindness, surveillance disguised as love. This God figure symbolism mirrors societal structures where institutions, corporations, or governments present themselves as protective entities, but in reality, they orchestrate the lives of individuals for profit, control, or entertainment. Christof's omniscient control over Truman's life is a chilling metaphor for the puppet masters in the real world, be they in corporate, political, or even familial structures, who orchestrate reality to suit their agendas while presenting a guise of care or benevolence. 12. Truman's namesake, True Man, and the search for authenticity. Truman's name as a reflection of his spiritual journey, uncovering truth within a false reality. Truman Burbank's name itself is a symbolic clue to his spiritual journey. True Man means true man, a direct reference to his quest for truth and authenticity within a false world. His search for the truth about his existence is mirrored in his name, underscoring the fundamental human desire for self-realization and overstanding in a world of illusion and control. The name reminds us that the pursuit of truth is not just external. It is intrinsic to our very nature as beings seeking authenticity in a world designed to manipulate perception. In The Truman Show, Truman's journey towards self-discovery is framed as a radical awakening. He is not merely questioning the world around him. He is challenging the very foundation of his identity and reality. Truman's breaking point is the moment he steps out of the pre-programmed identity and reaches for something deeper, his true self beyond the imposed roles of husband, son, and friend. His journey from ignorance to awareness mirrors the broader spiritual awakening that all individuals must undergo when they begin to question the systems that define their identities and realities. This process of awakening to one's true self, beyond the constraints of scripted systems, is the core spiritual journey of The Truman Show. It speaks to the collective human condition, the quest for authenticity in a world built on lies. Truman's name is a reminder that every person is born with the potential for truth, and the pursuit of that truth often requires the courage to escape the artificial systems designed to keep us in compliance. 13. Product placement and commercialization of life. Life becomes a marketable commodity within Truman's constructed world. One of the most disturbing elements of The Truman Show is how Truman's entire life is not only scripted, but monetized. Every object, every person, every moment in Truman's world is an opportunity for product placement, from the cars he drives to the brands of food he consumes. Truman's life becomes a commercial enterprise, and every action, relationship, and decision is part of a carefully orchestrated marketing strategy to sell products to the viewers who consume his reality. The film presents a grotesque version of the commodification of life, where even human emotions, connections, and experiences are transformed into sales tools. Truman's love for his wife, his friendship with his best friend, and his daily routines are not purely human. They are carefully crafted marketing campaigns. The viewers watching Truman's life see a world that appears genuine, but it is built solely for economic extraction, where every product, interaction, and emotion becomes a vehicle for corporate profit. This mirror of Truman's world in today's digital and consumer culture is hauntingly accurate. In our own society, the line between reality and marketing is increasingly blurred. Social media influencers, targeted advertisements, and even corporate-sponsored narratives on the news are designed to sell identities, emotions, and experiences in the same way Truman's world sells products. Truman's life reflects the reality TV economy, where everything, even our most sacred experiences, can be bought, sold, and consumed for profit. The true cost of this commodification? Authenticity and true human connection become collateral damage. 14. The role of ritual and repetition in conditioning control is maintained through habitual routines and orchestrated repetition. Truman's world is built on an endless loop of rituals and repetitive actions. Every day is practically identical to the last. Truman wakes up at the same time, performs the same activities, meets the same people, and encounters the same stimuli, all designed to reinforce the scripted reality he is bound by. These repetitions serve to solidify the illusion of normalcy, gradually conditioning Truman to accept his world without question. Rituals become a way to keep Truman on the track the system has laid out for him. This technique of ritualized repetition is not just a narrative choice, it's a psychological tool used by the system to ensure that Truman stays compliant. The repetition of everyday tasks, from breakfast to work, ensures that Truman feels comfortable, safe, and unaware of the reality outside his constructed world. By embedding Truman in a continuous cycle, the system prevents awakening by eliminating unpredictability and unsettling elements that might trigger suspicion or curiosity. This mirrors real-world systems of control that use ritual and repetition to cement belief systems and habitual behaviors. Religious rituals, social routines, and even corporate work schedules often function to reinforce the status quo, keeping individuals in line and preventing them from questioning the systems that govern their lives. The repetition of these actions becomes an invisible prison, making the controlled reality feel inevitable. The spiritual cost of this conditioning? The loss of freedom of thought and the erosion of true personal choice. 15. The manufactured crisis as control reset false conflict, designed to reassert control and reset the narrative. Throughout The Truman Show, we witness several artificially created crises, such as the supposed accident on the set or the fabricated storm, that seem to throw Truman off course, but ultimately bring him back into the system's fold. These manufactured crises serve as control resets, ensuring that Truman's resistance is momentary and quickly subdued. Each crisis is designed to reinforce Truman's belief that he is living in a natural, unpredictable world, but it ultimately reaffirms the false narrative. The recurring crises reflect how external conflict, whether psychological or physical, is often orchestrated by systems of control to reaffirm authority and redirect discontent. These crises ensure that Truman never gets too far from the system's control, even when he begins to question it. They are designed to appear as disruptive forces, but their true purpose is to ensure that Truman's behavior conforms to the desired pattern, by creating emotional turmoil and then resolving it within the boundaries of the controlled environment. This concept of the manufactured crisis parallels political and corporate strategies in the real world, where crises, whether economic, social, or environmental, are sometimes created or exacerbated to maintain control and reset public consciousness. These crises act as distractions or redirections, drawing attention away from deeper issues and ensuring that power structures remain intact. In Truman's case, the storm and subsequent emotional turmoil only served to pull him back into the fold, preventing any real awakening from occurring. 16. Public spectacle versus private reality. The tension between the show Truman believes he's living and the private truth he is denied. The Truman Show exposes the stark contrast between Truman's public spectacle, a life constructed for entertainment and observation, and the private reality that is systematically withheld from him. Truman's every move is watched by millions. His personal struggles, joys, and defeats are all part of a manufactured narrative for the benefit of the audience. This contrast between Truman's public existence and his true, hidden self represents the dissonance between the self we perform for the world and the self we are in truth. In modern life, this divide plays out in social media culture, where public personas are often carefully curated to project an idealized version of reality. The lines between the public self and the private self have blurred with digital platforms, where personal lives are monetized, edited, and presented as performative displays. The pressure to live authentically but perform for an audience mirrors Truman's dilemma. He must navigate a world that forces him to play a role, even as he senses something is wrong with the script. Truman's awakening represents the breaking of this duality, the collapse of the performance and the rediscovery of his true self. For Truman to escape, he must stop playing the role assigned to him by the producers and reclaim his private truth. This moment challenges all of us to confront the balance between who we are in public and who we are when the cameras are off. It asks us, are we living in a true, authentic reality, or are we merely performing a script designed by forces beyond our control? 17. Identity fragmentation under constant observation. The pressure to conform to external expectations fractures the core of the individual. Truman's sense of self is fragmented under constant surveillance. He is continually shaped by the expectations of the producers, the artificial relationships, and the audience who watch his every move. Each interaction he has is part of a script. His love, his friendships, his career, all of it is constructed for him. As Truman grows increasingly aware that something is off, his sense of self begins to crack. The pressure to conform to the roles assigned to him causes a psychological split between Truman the man and Truman the character. This mirrors the experience many people face in modern society, living under the weight of external expectations that mold and shape our identity. Whether through family, society, or digital platforms, individuals are constantly pressured to be a version of themselves that fits into pre-existing templates. This process leads to identity fragmentation, where the true self is buried under layers of conditioning, performance, and role-playing. Truman's journey toward self-awareness is an attempt to reclaim his fragmented identity and integrate the parts of himself that were hidden or suppressed by the system. His escape from the show is symbolic of the spiritual and psychological liberation that comes when we strip away the personas imposed by external forces and reclaim our true, whole selves. This act of integration is the key to personal freedom, but it requires a break from the constructed realities that we have been taught to accept. 18. The role of technology in reality simulation. How technology shapes Truman's reality and controls his perceptions of the world. Technology in The Truman Show functions as the silent architect behind Truman's entire existence. From the cameras that track his every movement to the weather systems that simulate the outside world, technology is the unseen force that creates and maintains the fabricated reality Truman lives within. The dome, the surveillance systems, and the artificial environment are all powered by complex technological systems designed to regulate every aspect of Truman's experience. This mirrors today's reality, where technology is often used to construct and manage the narratives we live by. Social media algorithms, predictive data systems, and even artificial intelligence all work behind the scenes to shape our understanding of the world, filter the information we receive, and curate our perceptions of reality. In Truman's world, just as in our own, technology is not just a tool, it is the environment. It molds our choices, frames our worldview, and, in many ways, dictates the limits of our freedom. The film makes clear that technology is not neutral. In Truman's case, it serves as a powerful means of control, trapping him in a constructed world where he has no ability to alter or challenge his circumstances. The question The Truman Show raises is, when technology is used to shape reality, who controls the narrative, and at what cost to the freedom and autonomy of the individual? Truman's awakening is not just about escaping his physical dome. It is about liberating his consciousness from the systems that control how he perceives the world. This mirrors the challenge we face today in a world dominated by data, surveillance, and algorithmic governance. 19. Social isolation as control. The manipulation of relationships to maintain emotional and psychological confinement. In The Truman Show, Truman's relationships are fabricated, and his social interactions are tightly controlled. From his wife to his best friend, every person Truman encounters has a singular purpose: to maintain the illusion of normalcy, and to prevent him from seeking the truth. These relationships act as a means of emotional and psychological containment, keeping Truman isolated in a world where true connection and authenticity are unattainable. By providing him with the illusion of companionship, love, and stability, the system secures Truman's emotional dependence, ensuring he doesn't look beyond the constructed world. This isolation is not just social, but deeply psychological. Truman feels the weight of connection, but is never allowed to truly connect in any meaningful way. These controlled relationships act as emotional anchors, keeping Truman bound to the system. They create an inner tension between what Truman believes and what his instincts sense, leading to confusion and emotional fragmentation. As long as Truman feels emotionally tied to these false bonds, he is less likely to question the artificiality of his reality. In a broader societal context, Truman's isolation mirrors the emotional manipulation found in oppressive systems, whether familial, social, or political. We often find ourselves in emotionally constricting environments where relationships, communities, and social networks are designed to keep us dependent on a system, whether that be through consumerism, social media, or cultural norms. The film critiques how emotional manipulation keeps individuals from awakening and connecting to their true selves. Truman's liberation begins when he breaks free from these bonds, and in doing so, he becomes free not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically as well. 20. The power of choice and the myth of escape. The illusion of choice within the constraints of a controlled reality. One of the most powerful psychological tools in The Truman Show is the illusion of choice. Truman believes that he is making decisions, creating his path, and choosing his future. He is given a variety of options, but those options are pre-designed, carefully curated by the creators of the show to guide him back into the loop. Every choice Truman makes, from his career to his relationships, feels personal and self-determined. However, in truth, these choices are constrained by the system, which ensures that every decision Truman makes brings him closer to the system's intended end: compliance. This illusion of choice is central to many control systems, where power structures allow for apparent autonomy within narrowly defined parameters. In Truman's world, it is not about denying him choices. It is about limiting his options and presenting them in such a way that he believes he is free. The myth of escape becomes another layer of control. The idea that there is a possibility of liberation within the system keeps Truman trying to solve the puzzle while never realizing the solution is to break out completely. In modern society, we face a similar dilemma. We are offered a range of choices, from career paths to political ideologies, and yet these options are all shaped by the very systems that seek to control us. Consumer choices, voting rights, and even personal freedoms are often illusionary, shaped by the forces of capitalism, media, and political power that predetermine the boundaries of our freedom. Truman's story is a direct metaphor for how systemic control manipulates freedom, offering choice but narrowing real options, ensuring that escape is never truly possible without breaking the script. 21. The final exit as spiritual awakening metaphor. Truman's escape from the dome as the ultimate act of spiritual liberation. Truman's final decision to leave the dome is a moment of profound spiritual awakening. He physically steps beyond the walls of the reality he's always known, breaking free from the totalizing control of the producers, the surveillance, and the illusion of reality. But this exit is not just physical. It is symbolic of the spiritual liberation that occurs when one recognizes the confines of the constructed world and chooses to seek truth, even at the risk of the unknown. This moment mirrors the classic hero's journey, where the protagonist must leave the familiar world to confront something greater. For Truman, the journey begins as an external escape, but evolves into a spiritual awakening. the realization that he has been living in a manufactured, restrictive reality. His choice to step out of the dome is a declaration of self-awareness, a refusal to live under the false premise of safety and certainty. Truman's leap into the unknown represents the spiritual risk of stepping outside the boundaries imposed by society, culture, or religion, seeking authenticity and freedom. Spiritually, Truman's escape serves as a metaphor for the human journey of self-discovery and transcendence. It is the act of breaking free from the systems that define us, to reclaim our freedom and find the truth of who we really are. This is the journey of every soul, to escape the illusions that bind us, confront the unknown, and claim freedom from the forces that seek to limit our potential. Truman's journey is not just about escaping the dome. It is about finding the courage to break the cycle of control and embrace a life of true autonomy. 22. The Legacy of the Truman Show, Reality, TV, and Beyond. How the Truman Show anticipated the rise of surveillance capitalism and the commodification of human experience. The Truman Show was ahead of its time in predicting the rise of reality television and, more broadly, the concept of surveillance capitalism. The film dramatizes a world where every aspect of Truman's life is commodified, not just for entertainment, but for control. It foretold an era where human beings are reduced to data points, their experiences, emotions, and even their time treated as consumable products for the masses. Truman's life is watched by millions, his every action dissected and transformed into something valuable for external audiences. The producers are not just creating entertainment, they are extracting value from his existence. This theme of commodification extends far beyond entertainment. In our digital age, social media platforms, personal data tracking, and algorithmic recommendation systems work in the same way as the producers of The Truman Show, shaping and manipulating our lives to fit the model of consumption. Reality TV, which once seemed like harmless entertainment, is now an embedded cultural phenomenon, reflecting how much of our lives are being watched, analyzed, and turned into content to be sold. The modern world increasingly mirrors Truman's, trapped in a system of surveillance, performance, and emotional extraction. The film's legacy is its ability to predict and critique the rise of a world where our lives are not our own, but are instead shaped by external systems for consumption and control. What The Truman Show taught us wasn't just about the dangers of media manipulation. It also reflected a deeper truth about human nature, the need for freedom, truth, and authenticity in the face of pervasive control. Truman's escape from his dome symbolizes the potential for spiritual awakening and the courage required to step out of the script, a powerful reminder that even in a world designed to contain us, freedom is always a choice. And with that, we've reached the end of this decoding. In this video, we broke down The Truman Show, a film that speaks not only to the perils of mass media, surveillance, and manufactured consent, but to the deeper, spiritual dynamics of control and awakening. We explored how Truman's constructed world mirrors modern systems designed to control, pacify, and suppress, while simultaneously offering the illusion of freedom. Truman's story is both a cautionary tale and a call to action, reminding us that freedom begins with awareness. Whether it's through external surveillance or internalized belief systems, we must learn to recognize the walls of the dome that limit us and have the courage to step beyond them. Thank you for watching this deep dive into The Truman Show. This is the end of this decoding. Stay vigilant, stay free, and continue to question the reality that is being constructed around you. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11x published author, and what you just watched was only a taste of what's inside the Truth series, where we go all the way down the rabbit hole. If you're the kind of person who's always asking bigger questions, who knows there's more to this world than what we've been told, then this is your invitation to the series that was built for you. Inside the Truth series, you'll get full access to 6 mind-blowing sub-series designed to wake up your highest intelligence and decode the matrix we live in. 1. Locate the truth. Learn how to actually research, not just what to search, but how to verify, cross-reference, read declassified files, and protect your own mind from weaponized misinformation. This is truth-seeking, decoded. 2. The Mandela Effect. Are we shifting timelines? Why do so many people remember a different past? We break down the most bizarre, undeniable examples of reality glitches and what they tell us about consciousness and control. 3. Law is magic. Law is not what you think it is. From word spells to maritime law and hidden contracts, we uncover how legal systems use language like a wand and how to stop being tricked by fine print that binds you without consent. 4. Entertainment or ritual. The Hollywood and music industries are not just for entertainment. From Super Bowl rituals to Grammy stage symbolism, we decode what's really being shown, who it serves, and why mass consciousness is the target. 5. Decoding dystopia. Ever wondered why dystopian fiction feels prophetic? In this subseries, we decode popular films and books, Hunger Games, 1984, Black Mirror, to reveal the hidden blueprints and predictive programming behind the plot. 6. MK Ultra plus mind control programs. This one gets deep. From real MK Ultra documents to modern symbolism in media, we expose how mind control operates in plain sight and how to free yourself from manipulation you didn't even know was happening. And that's just the beginning. If this resonated with you, click the links below and join us inside the Full Truth series, because the more you know, the harder you are to control. This is your awakening. We don't just ask questions, we find answers. Let's go all the way down the rabbit hole together.